powerhouse again.
Let me just follow up on Jackie's question about Munich.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of the latest updates. Today, we're diving into some explosive comments from President Donald Trump regarding J.D. Vance's speech at the Munich Security Conference. If you haven't heard about it yet, J.D. Vance's speech ruffled a lot of feathers in Europe, and now Trump is weighing in. So let's break down what was said and why it's causing such a stir. Let's get into it. First off, let's talk about what J.D. Vance actually said at the Munich Security Conference. Vance made some pretty bold statements about freedom of speech and migration in Europe, which is what really caught the attention of many, including Donald Trump. The European political landscape is shifting, and J.D. Vance clearly hit on some key issues that many people are starting to talk about more openly. He argued that Europe is losing its right to freedom of speech and raised alarms about the increasing challenges around immigration. Quick question for you, do you think Europe is losing its freedom of speech? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's get into Trump's response to all this. When asked about J.D. Vance's speech, Trump didn't hold back. He praised Vance for making a brilliant speech, saying that he really hit the nail on the head, especially when it came to freedom of speech in Europe. Trump pointed out that Europe is increasingly stifling free expression, and that's something people should be really worried about. He added that Europe has to be careful, and it's clear that he's not just talking about free speech, but about the broader political implications of losing those freedoms.
Let me just follow up on Jackie's question about Munich. Vice President Vance's speech to the conference has ruffled quite a few feathers in Europe.
What did he say to ruffle them? I don't know.
He was talking about the freedom of speech and migration in Europe. Do you believe that European leaders have a fundamentally different view of the world than this administration's?
Well, I heard his speech, and I tell you, you're talking about J.D.'s speech, right?
Yes, sir.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true in Europe. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it. I mean, I thought he made a very good speech, actually, a very brilliant speech. Yeah. Europe has to be careful. And he talked about immigration. And Europe has a big immigration problem. Just take a look at what's happened with crime. Take a look at what's happening in various parts of Europe. I thought his speech was very well received, actually. I've heard very good remarks.
It seems like Trump sees Europe as being on a dangerous path if it doesn't pay attention to these issues. He also mentioned how much crime has increased in certain areas of Europe, which connects directly to the challenges surrounding immigration. Moving on to the next hot topic in Vance's speech, and one that Trump really emphasized: immigration. J.D. Vance pointed out that Europe is facing a big immigration problem, and Trump echoed that concern. He went as far as to suggest that Europe's immigration policies have led to rising crime rates in various parts of the continent. Now, this isn't a new issue. The migration crisis has been a point of debate for years in Europe, but Vance and Trump are making the argument that the situation is spiraling out of control. But here's the thing, are we seeing real solutions to these issues, or are European leaders just ignoring the consequences? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So with all of this in mind, let's look at how European leaders are reacting. Trump's comments and Vance's speech have definitely caused a stir across the Atlantic. European leaders, many of whom are more liberal on issues like immigration and free speech, have been pushing back, saying that Vance and Trump are out of touch with the reality in Europe. But from Trump's perspective, it's clear that these issues are too important to ignore, and Europe could be heading for some major problems if they don't address them. In fact, Trump mentioned that he'd heard positive feedback about Vance's speech. So this isn't just about criticism. There's a lot of people, especially those on the right, who are nodding in agreement with what Vance had to say. The question now is, where does Europe go from here? Is there room for compromise, or are we heading toward a cultural and political clash? In the end, J.D. Vance's speech has sparked a much-needed conversation about Europe's future, and it's clear that Trump sees it as a warning shot for the continent. The issues of freedom of speech and immigration are not going away anytime soon, and they are definitely shaping the future of Europe in ways that we can't ignore. What do you think? Was J.D. Vance right? Is Europe heading in the wrong direction, or is this just political rhetoric? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest political debates and world events. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.